This content has been brought to you by my Patreons, and if you'd like to join them, link is in the description.
Welcome to Overthrow Media, your best place for politics, hip-hop, and life. It's Bigg, villainus, your comrade revolutionary, dope-ass MC, and international sexist. Today we're going to be reacting to another fucking prageru video. Former Antifa speaks out. But let's see. We come right back.
Living in the house of usher, parasitical and structure. The plague begins to cluster in the house of usher.
Do you like this channel? Do you like the content we create? Well, make sure to go over to Patreon at villainus_music and support it on a monthly basis. Or you can take a moment out and cop some of this dope ass merch. Or both. Alright, let's jump into this. We're gonna find out who this person is, who they claim to be, who they said they are affiliated with, because I have a strong suspicion that this is gonna be a whole bunch of bullshit. Let's get into it.
Welcome to Office Hours. I'm Georgia Howe with the Daily Wire. Today, we sit down with former member of Antifa and author of Behind the Black Mask, My Time as an Antifa Activist, Gabriel Nadales. Gabriel's newly released prageru video is titled, I Used to Be Antifa, where he walks us through what led him to join the infamous group, as well as the thinkers that changed his life and turned him toward conservatism. If you haven't seen his video yet, you can find a link to it in the description below. Let's jump right in. Gabriel, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Well, I'm really looking forward to talking to you because your story is actually really reminds me of my own. And I think there's a lot of lefties who kind of relate to what you went through.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. As a matter of fact, my email, every time that I go on a show like yours, I get random different people saying, I used to be part of the radical left and I can't believe I was doing all of these things. As a matter of fact, I have a call with somebody who was involved with BAM in the early 2000s. Now, BAM is one of the Antifa organizations that essentially orchestrated a riot at the Ben Shapiro event at UC Berkeley in 2017. And all of these different people, they've seen what Antifa has grown into, and they feel like it's a time to speak out and to put a stop to Antifa violence.
In the video,
I ain't gonna say that. I'm just looking at you crazy.
you said that you were recruited, but you also described Antifa as a very informal organization. Can you talk for a minute about how you became involved?
So I like to say that I was kind of recruited into it because it was around March of 2011 when I first went to my first Antifa rally. It was to organize against the National Socialist movement. And I was just a kid at the time. I was 17. And I remember, I like to say that I was recruited because that's where I met other Antifa activists, members of the Anti-Racist Action as well.
So before we go further, I want to be very clear about what the National Socialist Movement is. The NSM is a neo-Nazi organization. So when he says that, it isn't socialists. It isn't like any type of socialist at all. Like, they don't even claim to be socialists besides in the name. Like, you can dispute if the Nazis were socialists or not, you know what I mean? We can argue that or whatever. We can say whatever, but they are definitely not. They are neo-feudalist, capitalistic weirdos that really don't have a political theory more than white supremacy. So that's what the NSM is. And if you don't believe me, look it up. Just put a National Socialist Movement or the NSM into a Google search and see how many swastikas pop up. So, sympathizer for Nazis, maybe? Maybe. Is that what he might be doing? Maybe.
Well as Direct Action Claremont, which are local to Southern California. And I was recruited because they were like, hey, let's come with us. We're going to do more things. And they invited me to anarchist book fairs, animal rights protests. That's kind of how I was recruited into those circles. But at the same time, that would make it seem that every single Antifa group out there is very formal. Some of them are incredibly informal, but that's not to say that there are some groups that do have more official membership and they do keep things more tightly and closely tied together, such as Portland Antifa. I mean, the way that they recruit and they allow people into their membership, they have votes, they have leaderships. It's much more organized than people realize.
That's really interesting.
Okay, so no, and no, that's not true. That's actual bullshit. Now, are there people with roles? Of course, because to organize, you need to have roles. But having roles is not leadership and structure in the way he's trying to depict it. That's utter bullshit. I've never seen one Antifa organization that was structured in a way that would be even considered an organization. That'd be hierarchical in any way. Because most of them are anarchists, but if they aren't anarchists, they still ain't all on the same page, because the whole solidarity is built off fighting white supremacy and white nationalism and fucking racists that want to kill people. But anyways, let's go.
Interesting, because the way you describe Antifa, it sounds like a very grassroots organization, but I imagine there were probably centralized places where you'd be receiving your information from. So for example, like, how would you find out about protests that were coming up?
The interesting thing is that people ignore the anarchist history in the United States. Since the early 1900s, there's been anarchist groups, a lot of them foreigners from Spain or from different places, coming to America and causing chaos, essentially. I'm very familiar with the Los Angeles and the Southern California anarchist culture, because that's kind of where my roots began as being part of the anarchist culture. I know that in San Pedro, California, there's actually, and I talk a little bit about this in my book, where there's a monument to the IWW. Well, the IWW is still a workers' union that's active internationally today. Well, they have a rich history of anarchists and communists coming together to organize, and specifically in Los Angeles. And those establishments, they create a safe harbor for Antifa type groups today.
So, I know I'm pausing a lot, but I gotta touch on this. So, all the chaos that he's talking about anarchists causing, chaos like the 8-hour workday and into child slavery and child labor, chaos that we like to cause. So chaotic. How dare we stop child labor? How dare we demand that we have an 8-hour workday, 40-hour week? How dare we demand that we deserve overtime if you're gonna work us to the fucking bone? How dare us? Causing so much chaos. So much chaos.
But not only that, there's also different communist or anarchist bookshops all throughout the country. There's one in San Diego. There's Revolution Books, again, in Berkeley, which I'm very familiar with. And in Seattle, I'm sure there's a bunch. These little hubs are like centers for Antifa meetups and other anarchists who are friendly to the Antifa mission.
How would you describe the average Antifa member in terms of demographic?
Well,
Yo, watch out, left-wing books. Y'all are conspiring because you help people study and read shit and sell books. Books are dangerous. We should burn books. Burn books. The right wing is the way to go, according to him. I'm not really with that. But hey, I mean, he's the leader, right? He's the leader. He's the leader of Antifa.
Interestingly enough, one of the reasons that you see a lot of Antifa members being the long hair and kind of like the punk rock kind of thing is because American Antifa actually started from the punk rock movement in the 1980s. They used to be called the Anti-Racist Action, and they used to tour around with punk groups to go beat up Nazis. In the 2007, the Portland Anti-Racist Action was the first American Antifa group to change their name from ARA to Antifa, and then several different of them followed suit. That's why you have a lot of those, like, green hair. I used to have green hair, multiple different colors actually, and they kind of go side by side. Modernly though, they've expanded that. And it's no longer just about the punk culture. There's also a lot of the hip hop culture that I've heard about. And as a matter of fact, there's a left-wing academic, his name is Mark Bray. In his book, he describes more of the hip hop anarchist culture. The purpose of this is not really to,
look, if there's a real hip hop anarchist culture, yo, hit me up. Get in my motherfucking DMs, man. Get in the comments, something, man, because I need to connect, bro. Because I'm the only hip hop anarchist I fucking know. I'm gonna be 100 with you. I don't know. I know some radicals, but a lot of them are anarchists, so I don't know. I mean, okay, maybe Nikos. Nikos might be anarchist. But please let me know, because I don't know about that culture. And I'm from Seattle. Like I said, he said Seattle, right? I'm from Seattle. I don't know about that. Never heard of that. I've definitely seen people who want to be radicals or are in hip hop, but they're not really anarchists. Kind of authoritarian most of the time. Just saying.
is actually to use culture as a vehicle to spread their anarchist ideologies. So all of a sudden you're infiltrated into this culture, you're brought in from the culture, and then you stay for the anarchist ideologies.
In the video,
I know I'm pausing a lot. I got to do this because this dude's full of so much shit. So all art, all music is made out of like culture, out of politics. All culture, all music is political. Like, it's either capitalist, or it's communist, or it's socialist, or it's anarchist, or it's something that has not been named, but it has a political relevance, because what is politics but people functioning among people, looking out for their best interests and their material needs? What else is politics? But hey, most music is capitalist culture, capitalist propaganda. Just saying, most television, most anything in this country is capitalist propaganda. It's made to make you think that capitalism is the way to be. Cray cray. It's cray cray. It's kind of cray cray. Let's go.
Also kind of mentioned this about how they frame the name. So anti-racist or anti-fascist, it kind of piggybacks on very legitimate movements and sentiments. So for example, the civil rights movement. Is that correct?
You essentially create a narrative that if you're with us, we're the good guys and they're the bad guys. You have the anti-racist action, that means you're against races. Antifa, you're against fascism. The Earth Liberation Front, you must be protecting the earth. Animal Liberation Front, you must be protecting animals. And it's all the same. It's all just a name. It's just like in Congress, you often have these bills that say, oh, like protect the Second Amendment or, help workers. And you read the text of the bill and it has nothing to do with what the bill is intended to do, but it's just a name that they can say, we're part of the people who fight fascism. But it's not true, because oftentimes, the vast majority of times, especially in modern Antifa, the people who they're fighting are not actual fascists. They're just people who are conservative or even sometimes liberals, because one of the things that the mainstream media gets wrong is that they think that Antifa is only fighting against conservatives. No, they're fighting against anyone who has any classical liberal ideologies. That includes Democrats and Republicans alike, because many Antifa members acknowledge they are an illiberal movement.
In the video, you kind of talk about the name Antifa and how that is a rhetorical trick, in that it frames your opposition as pro-fascist, which functions as a soft censor because it makes people stop listening to them.
Yeah, it's essentially a way to dismiss them. It's like, why are you listening to them? They're racist. And it's like, well, are they? The vast majority of the time, these people who they're accusing of being racist, they're not. I mean, I caught a clip on MSNBC. I guess it was somebody from the Biden administration who said, we have to remember what Antifa is. They're fighting fascism. And if you're not pro-Antifa, then you're a fascist. And it's like, no, that is one of the most simple logic that you can do. You can just say that with absolutely anything, but the proof is in the details. And every time that you have Antifa violence, they're not fighting actual fascists. They're just fighting regular Americans.
In the video.
Okay, we're gonna stop here for right now. There'll be a part 2 on my Patreon, so if you want to see the part 2, make sure to go over to Patreon and become a member on my Patreon. Become a patron. If you can't afford it, well, we always got free content on here because we love you too. Just show a like button and a comment and appreciate it. But here's the thing. Here's the thing with this cat, right? He is clearly someone who switched sides to get profit, to make money. The idea that Antifa is fighting against people who aren't racist is utter bullshit. He said just normal Americans. Well, normal Americans are fascists. If you look at the history of this country, the history of this nation, how this nation influenced the Nazis, and how Hitler took a lot of his ideology from actions we did, like the solution to the Indian problem being the solution to the Jewish problem, having those correlations, like having direct influence around eugenics and targeting marginalized peoples to be able to commit genocide and against, to be able to sterilize, to be able to experiment on. That came from the US first. All the things and the tenets of fascism fit the tenets of America, of capitalism. And I would argue America is the original fascist state. All right, thanks for rocking with me. Make sure to leave a comment in the comment section. Make sure to share this, hit a like button, subscribe, hit that bell, make sure it's on all so you get notified of all my new videos, and follow me on all the social media. That means villainus_music on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. Yeah, that Patreon, Twitch, SoundCloud, and anything I missed will be right here. All right, I'm gonna catch y'all later. Thanks for rocking with me. Deuces.
Walking through the crease and the cracks of the streets. Struggling for some food and a bed to sleep. While trying to cause overthrow, I'm feeling weak. Ideology buff,